So what was it like for both of you individually when you first laid eyes on Guruji, and what was the setting like? What was going on? Was it a satsang going on? And what was the impression you had right away from the get-go?
Okay, there was an American yogi, his name was Vasudeva, and he was from the Ananda Marga organization, and he organized Guruji's travels in 1972. So as Karuna said, there was a poster to go see Guruji at a lecture hall. So we went there, and your dad was there playing tabla, and Ramamata was there, and Omkar Das was there. I don't know if you guys remember Omkar Das. So I was so impressed, the same as Hari was, with Guruji's satsang. I mean, I never heard anything like it. And afterwards, they offered a personal interview with Guruji. And at that, I was never that close to a guru ever, So I was so scared. But he made me feel so at ease, and he was so loving. And, I mean, at that point, he had me, okay? And I knew this was my guru. But I had a couple months of doing some other things, and, finally traveling to New York and spending time with Guruji in New York City, and on a tour up into with the Shivananda Yoga organization. And I spent like 2 or 3 months traveling with him at that time. And I was never formally initiated that entire time. But I think the initiation was already there, as Karuna said, past life. I really believe that. I really believe there was a connection. Otherwise, how could it happen? I was just a ordinary goofball hippie, of the time. So we're so fortunate. Yes.
Thank you. Karuna, anything you want to add to that?
No, I would just say I remember, just not so much the satsang and what was said, but just the feeling of love and that family. And Ramamata, when she smiled at me, I mean, it melted your heart. It was just total belonging and pure love, honestly. More than the intellect, it was through my heart.
Oh, wonderful. Haricharan Das, I think you sort of answered this question already. So, yeah, but you did say that when you first saw his satsang, it was so incredible for you that you were already hooked in, similar to what Ravi said. Did you want to add anything more?
No. I've never seen anything like Guruji satsang, and I've seen hundreds and hundreds of satsangs. But what Guruji was doing was in a class of its own. I can only say,
yeah,
absolutely extraordinary.
Nagendra, tell us about, I know you were following Guruji since you were very young, but tell us when you were actively following him and it was you basically decided that that's going to be a major part of your life. He's going to be your guru. How did that all happen? And how old were you and what was it like?
As my parents were devotional, I was looking for enlightenment, creating my own chantings and prayers. Sri Guruji Keshavadas ji, pleasing spiritual introduction to Harikathas. There was a Nirupana Bhaga called Introduction and discourses that attracted me to this spiritual line. As a student of BCom in the college in 1959, hearing his programs, I got attracted to his personality and boldness of presentation on God and his glories. First, I thought I will reserve this life to local and worldly things, earn some money, do some good work, and in the next life I will reserve it for spirituality. But on that day, Guruji's message was with a song of great Saint Purandara Das. He said, you may not get human life again. Knowing this, do not be a dull person. So that it changed my life, and I decided to dedicate my life to Guruji and God thereafter. So I will go on answering other aspects of the beautiful questions as we go on. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Dayaram, Padma, I know Padu was, obviously in the same region where Guruji was residing, and she and her family knew him from a very early age. But if you would like to say what your impression was as you came to know of him or more about him, and from a childhood perspective.
So what I knew was,
yeah.
I used to be so little and I used to be sleeping when he was doing the Harikatha. And when he used to start singing, I used to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Always I remember that. And he used to later even tell, did you get up when I was singing? I'll wake you up now and then, okay? Don't worry. That's all. You have to get up and just see me and clap and sing. That's all. What I'm telling this. Hari bol, that's all. Say that all the time.
Beautiful.
So even till today when I'm sleeping, I have that memory.
Wow.
Wonderful.
So in my case, it was 1982, November of 82. I had been studying Hatha Yoga with a woman named Rama Jyoti Vernon, who started the Yoga Journal and also the Yoga Teachers Association. Guruji spent months with her in Berkeley, California, he and mother staying with her. She just passed away November 23rd. We just had a memorial last Wednesday with her. She left her earthly body. So she kept saying, Daya, and I wasn't Daya at that time, you need to meet this man. If anybody was this teacher, he's your teacher. I can tell he's your guy. He's coming to my home to give satsang in Bellevue, Washington, where we live now. And sure enough, I went there for a satsang. And as soon as I heard him and saw him, now mind you, I'd been studying SRF lessons and Yogananda for about a year and a half. But immediately I fell in love. There was somebody that embodied what was in the book. He embodied what I was reading about. And all of a sudden, and I also the next day had a interview. And in that interview, he gave me my mantra. He gave me the name Daya Ram. And at first I was taken aback. Most of you know that Daya Mata was the president of SRF. So at first I felt like, you can't give me a name, because I was thinking Yogananda. Anyway, all that got reconciled relatively quickly. And there was no confusion. There were some other mystical things that happened between the dance when I first had confusion between Yogananda and Guruji. But that all resolved itself in time. But it was really love at first sight. And just being in his presence, I always felt like I was dancing, on the shoulders of angels, just being in his presence. From the time I met him until the last time we saw each other in the summer of 1997. So.
Oh, beautiful.
So, Ravi, I remember you had mentioned to me one time how you actually discovered or how you felt there was like a signal that Guruji would be your guru, that he's going to be your guru. You had that moment where you actually realized that.
Yeah, what happened was Guruji was in New York City.
Yeah.
And I was on my way to see Swami Muktananda because he had a big ashram actually in New York City, a hotel. He bought a hotel, had a huge ashram. And I had been there twice before. And I told Guruji I was going to see Swami Muktananda. And he said, well, I'm in New York at the same time. Why don't you come see me? I said, okay. So I went there, and I remember they were staying in the Shivananda Yoga Center in Manhattan. So I went there, and the first thing that happened was I didn't see Guruji, but Omkar Das brought me sambar and rice. That was my first sambar rice initiation,
Yes.
So somehow, like after a couple days, I told Guruji I was going to see Swami Muktananda. And Guruji sort of said, well, I'm going too. So I went with him and Ramamata, and, Swami Muktananda really received Guruji well. Oh. And he had Ramamata and Guruji stand up and sing, Nitila Nature, Om Namah Shivaya, that particular bhajan,
Yeah.
And there were hundreds of people there, okay? And Guruji and Ramamata stood up, and that was quite an experience for me. It was like, Swami Muktananda was a siddha and a very powerful yogi, a very powerful guru. So, him recognizing Guruji and giving Guruji a portfolio to, bring bhakti, the Shiva bhakti, to all of his followers. I was really impressed with that on an intellectual level, but also it was quite a spiritual experience. So finally, I'll make it short. We were invited to go back into a small room with Swami Muktananda. There was maybe 10 or 15 people in the room. And Guruji was talking with Swami Muktananda. And Swami Muktananda remembered Ramamata because Karuna will certify this. Karuna will tell you this, that Swami Muktananda, Ramamata sat on his lap when she was a younger child, okay, in the particular village. And he remembered.
God.
Yeah. So he remembered her. So this was like fascinating, man. This was really blew my mind, So I was sitting in the back of the room. And one way that Swami Muktananda would give Shaktipat, okay, he would hit you with a peacock feather on the back, okay? And people would have spiritual experiences, So I was sitting in the back of the room, and he said to me, he looked at me and said, what do you want? What do you want? So at that particular time, I could say, Swamiji, I want your initiation. But I looked at Guruji, and instead I said, Swamiji, I want your blessing. So he called me up, he whacked me with a peacock feather, and from that moment on, I was with Guruji. That's the story.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. When I was meeting my Guruji at his home with an appointment, I requested him one day, I want to see you. He said, okay, come at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I went there. It was in Malleshwaram, Bangalore. And he asked me after introduction, what do you want to know from me? I did not know anything. I was just 18, so whatever came to my mind, I told him that I want to become just like you. I didn't know that was such a big question, and I was asking it so humbly. And then he also laughed, like all of you laughed, and he said, what you do is you go on writing whatever I speak in the lectures. So gradually you get all the knowledge. So from that day on, I bought notebooks, and whenever Guruji was speaking, I wrote from the Omkar all the way to the Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. All the songs, all these lectures, because there was no Kannada shorthand at that time. I was writing in Kannada language, which he was speaking. I made my own shorthand, Purandara Vithala, Pundarika Varada, Panduranga Hari Vitthal, Pu, Va, Pa, Ha, Vi, my own handwriting, my own shorthand, until the Whitman shorthand was converted into Kannada, and it came after 8 years. So before that, I had to do my own Kannada shorthand, and I did that. And after 4 years of this one, I had one full Godrej Almera of books on Guruji's writings or messages and lectures. What the Prime Minister came, or the Maharaja came, or the Mayor came, whatever they spoke, and even Guruji, whatever the message was on that day. All those things. If, for example, Karuna Sagara Apara, Karuna Sagara Apara, that song he would sing 10 minutes. So wherever he went in modulation, I would mark my notes with waves so that he had a modulation right there. So with that minor detail, I covered everything. That helped me to write Sri Guruji's autobiography, called the Bhadrigiri Bhakti Yogi, which is Bhakti Yogi of Bhadrigiri, like the autobiography of a yogi. So this happened at that time, and then as I went on writing these books, one day I got an inspiration that I should write his life also. Then, because I had all this material with me, and I went and met Guruji's mom and requested her to give me the experiences of her birth and the surroundings nearby at the time of his birth and the growing up. And also I went to mother-in-law of Guruji, Sushila Bai, Ramamata's mother, who knew everything about Guruji's and her daughter's marriage, from their first meeting all the way to the marriage and birth of Murli and Geeta. I took notes of all those things, and those things helped me to write the Bhadrigiri's Guru Bhakti Yogi book in Kannada.